Before I speak about meditation, I just want to give you a little background as to why the young man introduced me as His Royal Majesty, King of the Asada Society. I'm the head of a society that is 19 years old and incorporated in 15 different cities in the United States. In 1980, we decided to organize ourselves around the African kingship. The short of it is that we, from studying and so forth, realized that the African kingship is superior to Western systems of government and organizing people. So we established ourselves, rather than using a Eurocentric model, presidents, vice presidents, secretaries, and treasurers, and election and majority vote or whatever, we use the African system. You don't find presidents and treasurers and secretaries and things like that in traditional Africa. They have the kingship, the council of elders, queen mothers, and so forth. We also felt that it was important by doing that to signal to our children that we are not the descendants of slaves, but the descendants of kings and queen mothers and priests and mathematicians and doctors and accomplished people who have been stolen and imprisoned, who are now liberating themselves. So our kingship is an act of liberation from the ideas of Western people. So we established an authentic African kingship in America. There were other African Americans who had done so. You may have heard of Osejaman Adefumi I, who incorporated his people into kingship, and his kingship was recognized in Nigeria at the Otunji village in South Carolina in the USA. There was also Nana Yaopade Dinizulu, who was deceased last year, who also established his kingdom in America and was recognized by the kings and queen mothers of Ghana. Yes, sir? My kingship was recognized on November 15, 1985 by the Het-Heru Tumfo Pokowara II king of the Ashantis. I was given 50 acres of urban land in Kumasi a year later in 1986. November the 17th, 1985, I was installed as a paramount king also in the Agogo region of Ashanti, Ghana. I'm also a holder of what is called the Black Stool in the Ankhobia region of Ghana, and so forth. So that's the short of the long of it. I was also given 200 acres of land when I was installed as a ruler in Agogo as well. So our people follow the kingship, meaning that we are not a group that provides classes for people. You see, we provide all the things that your government says that they will provide for you. We organize ourselves to provide those things for our people. You see? Our society has businesses, our own schools, many factories who manufacture clothing. You see how beautiful I'm dressed? This is cloth purchased as a shoke from Nigeria, sewn, by our own people in New York, meaning the cash flows to our own people, so that we can have schools and stores and manufacture cosmetics and, our own line of herbal products and so forth, our own publishing firm and so forth. So that's what kingship means, organizing the people to organize their resources, you see, for their own welfare. Right now, your resources are organized for the welfare, of the white British, and you get the minor share of it. So anyhow, we're not here to speak politics and economics and things like that. We're here to speak about meditation. That's what you came here to learn. Meditation is one of the things that we teach our people, one of the tools that we teach our people. And I'd like to share with you the reasons for meditation and explain to you how, we meditate from an Afrocentric perspective. You see these symbols here. Oser, Oset society, is the name of our group. Oser is the African name for what the Greek call Osiris. Oset is the traditional ancient Egyptian African name for what the Greeks call Isis. Listen. And they both represent, those aspects of divinity that reside in man and in woman and become the models of manhood and womanhood from a divine perspective as a little guide, to African people. We do not use the Greek names, Osiris, Isis, and, like we use Heru instead of Horus, and we use, Het-Heru instead of Hathor, and so forth. Because we do not, in speaking of our culture, we reject the name of the Greeks who perverted, destroyed our culture and killed our ancestors and things of that nature. Why meditate? Why do you do the things that you do? Why are you the way that you are? For good or for bad? You find yourself, controlled by certain habits, certain compulsions, certain drives within you that make you do things that are not beneficial to you. I'm sure that all of us have one or several of these things in our lives. We know better, yet we are driven to do things that are harmful, destructive. Why can't we bring ourselves to come together and share our monies? Put our monies in the black community. We make enough money already to help ourselves if we bought black. If we pool our monies to invest in ourselves. Why can't we do that? Why can't we trust one another to do these things? Why can't we do many other things that is within our grasp to do? We are convinced, over-convinced that tobacco causes cancer, but some compulsion drives us to smoke. We cry foul, against the government, how they don't do this for us and do that for us, yet we spend about 15 billion pounds a year on tobacco and alcohol. They enslave our ancestors to grow tobacco, to make alcohol, to grow sugar cane, to make alcohol. And we walk around talking about we're revolutionaries. The man this and the man that. Yet we throw away about 15 billion pounds a year. Why are we driven by these kinds of irrationalities? Why do we succumb to these types of irrationalities? We are the way we are. The habits that drive us make us function the way we do because that part of us that determines how we function is hidden from us. If that part of us that determined how we function was, manifest, was exposed to us, if we could see it at work daily, then we could understand it. We could understand ourselves. We would not need psychologists and sociologists and psychiatrists and teachers and people like that, because we will be able to figure out for ourselves why we are the way we are. If the part of us that is responsible for the way we are was, operating in full sight. You see, we are all duality. We refer to ourselves as individuals. The word individual doesn't mean what most of us think it means. If you look carefully, there's two words, indivisible. Go to any good dictionary. Get your Oxford dictionary out, the big ones, that break down words etymologically. And you find that individual means indivisible and duality. So we call ourselves, we are an individual because the word individual means indivisible duality. Meaning that we are two things, two forces, two beings that cannot be separated from each other. When you are by yourself thinking, as many of you all are thinking right now, it's like carrying on a conversation in your head, right? So it takes at least two to have a conversation, doesn't it? You see, this duality that cannot be separated, meaning indivisible duality, is manifesting itself constantly in front of you. Every time you think, this duality, the fact that you're not one but two entities, is clearly in front of you. And most of us, let's be honest now. Many of you did not know that you are two and not one until I just said it. Many of you went inside of your minds like, damn, it's true what the brother's saying, There are two of us, because when I'm thinking, it's like carrying on a conversation. Isn't it true? So, which one are you? Which one of these two that's carrying on this conversation is a real you? Because one is real and the other one isn't. If you don't know which one are you, if you don't understand the nature of what makes these two that are carrying on a conversation different, you're in deep trouble, brothers and sisters. See? One of the things that meditation wants to do is for you to find out the nature of these dual entities, that talk to each other. You think I should go today, to the beach? No, let's see, no. Don't go to the beach. I think I should, go mess with that woman or that man. No, because you get in trouble, man, And then a struggle. You ever had a tug of war going on inside of you? How can there be a tug of war if there isn't two of you? One wanting to do this, another one saying, no, don't do it. You see? So the question is, which one of these two are you? And do you understand who you are? Because if you don't understand who you are, then you're in deep trouble. So one of the things that meditation aims at is revealing to you the nature of these two entities that make up your being, and enables you to gain control over that part of your being that is the cause of all the problems. Because many of you you have certain bad habits. Can't get up on time to go to work, for example, or to school. You lose your job. You want your job. You need the job. You lose the job, you're going to affect your marriage. You want your marriage. You need your marriage, but you just can't get up on time because one part of you keeps saying, man, I know the clock went off, man, but I'm going to get me some extra sleep here. You're riddled by these kind of habits, you see, because there's a certain part of you that is, hard to control, out of control. Let me explain to you more about these two that make you up. And you are a duality, you see. There are certain things that you have direct control of with your will. You can will to speak, you can will to move your hands, you can will to move your legs, you can will to bend your body, you can will to marshal certain thoughts, But sometimes you find yourself, the person's name, and you're trying to recall the name, but another part of you won't give it up. It's like, damn, I know the person's name, You ever had that, right? Of course you have. You dial a phone number, maybe your own phone number, 1,000 times, and then one day, some other part of you won't give it up. One part of you can say, okay, let me dial the number. And the other part of you say, well, I'm not going to give you the number right now. You're like, damn, what's my number? What's my number? You can't remember. You cannot recall because you see, wanting to remember is one part of you, and giving up what is in the memory is in the other part of you. Suppose, let's say, every time you wanted to remember something, the part of you that stores it will give it up. Every time you want to remember something, the part of you that stores it gives it up. What would that do to your finances? You quadruple your income. quintuple your income. You will increase your income 100-fold if everything that you remember you could retrieve at will. The problem is that, you can't, can you? Scientists say that man never forgets anything. Once you remember something, once you're exposed to something, you never forget it. So how come you can't recall everything that you've been exposed to? One part of you can will to remember, the other part of you says, well, I'm not going to give it up right now. And you flunk tests, you flunk out on jobs, or you just don't do as well as you would like to do. This is what meditation, one of the things that meditation is important for, is to be able to retrieve at will everything that you have stored in memory. To be able to communicate between these two parts of your being. Now, I just want to give you more insight into your makeup before we get into explaining to you the process of meditation. When you study psychobiology, you will learn that you don't have one brain. You have several brains. Okay? And these different brains don't work in harmony with each other. They have to be brought into harmony with each other, you see? You have a brain that goes from the highest vertebra to the little seat where the cranium sits on. That's called the brainstem, or the R complex, the reticular formation, which is also called the serpent brain. For the simple fact that that brain right in here that makes up about 5% of the entire brain makes up about 98% of the brain of a serpent or a lizard or a frog or something like that. You see, meaning that before the mammalian species were developed, okay, this part of your brain here was all the brains that was evolved in the world at the time, in the reptilian species. You see? And this part in your brain influences you to act in ways that are similar to reptiles, meaning that there's a reptile inside of you. There's something inside of you that acts and functions like a reptile. Okay, you can verify this in any book on psychobiology. Meaning that many of the mistakes and screw-ups in your life is coming from your failure to control the impulses from the reptile in your brain. You see? The Bible, takes that scientific information and was trying to teach it to people in a kind of, rudimentary, messed up manner when it said that the serpent spoke to the woman. Yeah, what's not? Come on, brothers and sisters. A snake never spoke to a human being, ever. Neither then, not today, not tomorrow. Don't ever let any teachings mess your mind up, make you believe in fantasies. You see? People have a habit of speaking in metaphors. You see? Because we can convey a great deal of information through metaphors, because things are analogical to each other. Now you can understand that what made man fall. The woman is just simply another metaphor for that inside of you that is receptive to being led. Because, in general, women are led by men. You want to say they're the receptive. Men are the outgoing principle. You see? So the reptilian brain within you influences you to behavior that is no much smarter than a lizard or frog or, so there's something very dumb inside of you, You see? Did you ever succumb to the way somebody looks? Were you ever swayed by the way somebody, by the lilt, by the lisp, by, the melody and the rhythm of somebody's speech? Have you ever been swept away by that dip in that young woman's walk? When, that brother that struts down the street saying, I'm the baddest nigga sister that you fall and saying, and she goes, oh, so handsome. He's so suave, Have you ever succumbed to that? Have you ever look at somebody, your sister's swaying, you fall and saying, and you forget all the teaching of the ageless wisdom. You forget to ask a woman about, are you industrious, sister? You know to cook? Are you spendthrift or do you know to save money? Are you healthy? Like, oh, the child looks good. Let's get married. Have you ever succumbed to, these external, moves, these impressions? Because if you have, you see, then that reptile brain inside of you made a decision for you. You know what I'm talking about, bro? You have to understand where the impulses are coming from. You have to understand where the messages are coming. You have to understand where you're functioning from. When you come to the ancient Egyptian culture, you see animal-headed men and women. When the white men, came to Egypt and studied our culture and wanted to malign us, wanted to establish the myth that we were inferior people. He said, oh, these Egyptians, these black people, they worship animals. Their gods are animal-headed human beings. That was scientific poetry. That was a metaphoric scientific way of, explaining that there are animalistic tendencies, animalistic faculties in your brain influencing your behavior. Some people are hawkish, right? Others are doves. Some people are bullish, some people are bearish, some people are sheepish. Some people are strong like the Lion of Judah. So when you want to condense your information in a graphic metaphor, you simply have the body of a human being with the animal of the appropriate head on it. If I say Het-Heru, it's a man with a hawk head. All I'm simply saying is that it's a hawkish person, that not to go messing with that person. You mess with a hawk will kill you. So we just simply scientifically, poetically expressing, psychobiology. That's what the ancient Egyptians, your black ancestors, were talking about. They weren't talking about no, damn gods or whatever. We're talking about, the principles in your brain and in your spirit that influence your behavior. And the the stories that they call myths were really, the elaboration of how these faculties express themselves within you, the struggles that goes on within your spirit. Your attempts to control them and how they control you and what happens to you when you don't control them. If all I'm saying, how to conduct the struggle and so forth. They mapped out the entire way in which you could control, those elements in your spirit. Serpents. In the Egyptian system, you see serpents. Always a lot of serpents, They're called opet, symbols of darkness and symbols of evil. You see? For the simple fact that the lowest intelligence within you is the reptilian brain. That if you do not cultivate your behavior, if you don't learn how to understand that reptile inside of you, you see, it will cause you to fall. That's what the story in the Bible was supposed to have, enlightened to man. You read the Bible about Adam and Eve think something happened some 6,000 years ago somewhere, and what happened to do with me today? Other than I was born in sin because of that. That's a foolish story. What you want to understand is that reptile inside of you that's making you do foolish things. Man comes around with a mean and walk and handsome clothes and you fall for him. Woman comes around with a nice strut, man, and talking that talk and you fall for her. Acting for the reptile in your brain. You want to get married, you want your life to go well, you want to work hard and make your money and share it with a woman instead of get ripped off, or with a man instead of get ripped off, you better ask some intelligent questions. You better decide from a higher knowledge. You understand? So you have to understand that serpent within you and conquer it. Is it? There's another brain inside of you. It's called the midbrain, the limbic system. It's metaphorized as the beast brain, because that midbrain within you, okay, which is the second oldest brain within you, the older the brain, the more powerful its influence over your life. You see? It is stronger. You see, it has more influence in your life. So this beast brain within you influences you to behavior that you share in common with, mammalian beasts, with cows, horses, dogs, sheep, tigers, lions, and so forth. Can't we, if we understand animals like horses and dogs and lions and sheep, don't we characterize people as being sheepish? As being dogs. We call some people, oh, you snake, you vile serpent, you, because we are able to see, you see, that characteristic, you see, that personality characteristic, you see, between people and those animals. But what I want you to understand is that, you see, these are just not simply analogies. You have a, structure in your brain, you see, that is responsible for you to behave like these animals out there. But if you don't bring it under control, it will make you act irrationally and animalistically. Why do you think there's a big problem in the black community of, young black males have to fear other young black males more than the police and white men? Where is their behavior coming from? What is the solution? The solution is for you to, learn your ancient wisdom and take that information into the school system so that your young brothers can learn to understand what is driving them, so that they can stop the beast within them from aggressing their own kind. Because only a beast will aggress its own kind. And that's a beast gone mad. Because dogs will not kill each other when they're part of a pack. Lions don't kill each other when they're part of a pack. Horses don't kill each other when they're members of the same pack. So that's just not simply the beast within us, but the beast gone crazy. Because we have lost knowledge of self. Self-knowledge is understanding what controls you. Your ancestors thousands of years ago, some people say about 6,000 years ago, others say maybe 25,000 years ago. Either way, at least 6,000 years ago in the desert of Egypt, black people, African people, sculpted a huge sphinx. The body, frontal part of a woman, and the back of a lion. And the little inscription at the base of that, and it's a colossus thing, several stories high, weighing thousands of tons. Napoleon went down there to see the great wonder of the world, and when he got there, he got freaked out. He saw this big black nose and these big black thick lips staring at him. He said, damn, niggers built this thing. And he got his soldiers to try to shoot the nose off, to try to erase the racial, signature. And after several hundred rounds of cannon fire that was hardly making a dent on the nose, he gave up, left frustrated back to France. That's how massively built. And the inscription on the base of this great statue says, man, know thyself. Because if you don't know yourself, somebody else is going to kick your butt. Because enslavement is made possible by you cooperating with the master, by not knowing who you are. I was in Birmingham last night, and I said to the brothers in Birmingham that African Americans earn over 300, close to $400 billion. That's about 140 billion pounds a year. And they can't even put 1%, any of that money into a United Black Fund. If they could put 1% of that money into United Black Fund, they would have 1.5 billion pounds or $3 billion a year. That's more than enough monies, man, to create investment monies for black businesses, monies for school and skills training, all this, hospital and healthcare for black people. We already won the war and don't know it because the visions, the understanding is not being released from that part of the spirit that holds on, that is responsible for what we know and don't know. Because we don't meditate. We spend too much time with our consciousness detained. We say entertain, but I say detain outside of ourselves, watching the damn television, listening to the radio all day long, instead of exploring the messages, the revelations within our own spirit. Afro-Caribbeans in this country, Africans in England, I don't call you British people, excuse me. I call you Africans in Britain or Africans in the UK. You understand? And one day the U stands for the Unified Kingdom. When all Africans in diaspora come together as one love again. Yes, sir. The point is here, my brothers and sisters, is that you earn about £750 million a year. If you could put 1% of that in a united fund, before you spend any amount of money, you put 1% of that in a black fund. Then all the things that you think that you have to go to war for and revolution for, and you think that Parliament has to give to you or whatever, you find in that kitty, you fall on saying, all the money you need. You see? We're talking about £500 million or so. Every year you find money to invest, that fund will go to invest for black people and things of that nature. I'm talking about 1%. Yet you spend about 10% on alcohol and tobacco and things of that nature. And most of your money you spend it in the white neighborhoods. Why? Because you are failing socially, to teach your people the type of skills that would, number one, make the leaders trustworthy for you to put your monies together. To make your people elevated in your consciousness to know to do these things. Never make your salvation depend on what somebody else does. Your salvation must always be 100% dependent on what you do, and you have already done it. You earn enough monies to solve your problem. All you have to do is to reach in deep down into your spirit and find the power to love one another. And one love means nothing. Don't sing about it. If you can't put your monies together, work for self and buy from self, that and only that is one love. But it takes spiritual practices to bring it around. It doesn't come from just singing songs and smart slogans. It comes from a spiritual raising. That's what meditation is all about. When you look at the ancient Egyptian landscape, you don't see advertisement for Nile beer. They used to have beer then. Lotus bread. You don't see advertisement, for, upriver fish. You saw sculptures of the gods all over the land. These people kept religion uppermost in their minds. Now some of you say religion. Now, man, he said the R word, man. He said religion. Let me say something to you, right? You have no problem with religion. You have problem with somebody else's misconception of religion. You have problem with somebody else's, misuse of religion to oppress the people. When the Romans came to learn religion in Egypt, when the Greeks came to learn religion in Egypt, as they testify in their own histories, as Herodotus wrote, and Hipparchus and all the Greek and Roman historians wrote, when they came to Egypt to learn religion, we taught them religion, and even we showed them how to put the word together. The word religion was not invented in a fish market somewhere. It's a classical word. There are two words, re, which means again, once more, back, and legion, which means ligare, ligament, to tie, to unite. So religion meant to reunite, to tie back. You see, religion is what ties people together. You see, if it's the right religion, if it is used for the right purpose. The word religion also means legein from the Greek. That means logic and law. You see? So the religion that has been taught to you, and you still can't come together. The religion that was taught to you and given to you that has failed to bring you together to solve your problems is not the religion I'm talking about. I'm talking about that religion that brought black people together in the Nile Valley 6,000 years ago and older than that, for 1,000 years, and enabled them to pool their resources to build the greatest civilization the world has ever seen. Because they gave the world mathematics, they gave the world algebra, trigonometry, architecture, astronomy, medicine, religion, writing. The same script that you read was invented by the ancient Egyptians. And the blacks of Canaan modified it and taught it to the Greeks, who modified it and gave it to the rest of Europe, because the white man has never invented a script. Yes, sir. And I can go on and on and on to talk about the accomplishments of ancient Egypt and the blacks of Sumer, but that's not the theme of our discussion today. Yes, sir? I want to talk to you about the meditation process. This here, these are the 10 deities of the tree of life. The Bible told Adam not to eat of the tree. See, the Bible was Jewish propaganda against what? Black things. You see, the black man gave power to his woman. The Bible put woman down. When the white man, came into to Canaan, and the Jew was a white man. If you read Ezekiel 7:21, I believe, it's in my book, in the Lunator, the exact references. If you read Ezekiel, one of the books in the Bible, it says, Israel, your father was an Amorite, your mother a Hittite, and your birth was in the land of Canaan. Now, Amorites are white people, brunette and blonde, blue-eyed people. That's the father of Israel. The mother was a Hittite. The Hittites are another Indo-European people of black hair, like the Armenians of today. Now, that's what the Bible says. Israel, your father is an Amorite, your mother is a Hittite, and your birth is in the land of Canaan. So when these white people came, into Canaan, says the Jews, the Jewish historians, that the blacks of Canaan taught the Jews their language, taught them their religion, taught them agriculture, taught them to read, to write, taught them mathematics, and made them a civilized people. Okay? The Bible is a rewriting, a paraphrasing, and a plagiarizing of many black books of Canaan and Sumer and Egypt. You can go to any library and check this out. The story of Exodus is a plagiarization of the Canaanitic poem, the Song of the Sea, the Song of Yema. You see? This is in any good antiquarian library. Now, this tree, you were told, the Jews were told not to eat from the tree of life. And the Bible goes on to say, because in the day that you eat of the tree of life, your eyes shall be open and you shall be as gods. Well, what's wrong with that? Why do you want to go through life with your eyes closed? The Bible contradicted itself right there. It says, the day that you eat from the tree of life, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods. Now, let's back up and go to Genesis 1:21, where it says, and God said, let us make man in our own likeness. So you see, man is made in the likeness of God. Then later on, man is told, don't eat of the tree of life because your eyes will be open and you shall be as gods. If you're made in the likeness of God, you shouldn't become the likeness of God. That's contradictory, right? That's like I'm saying, let us make a man child. You with me? And then when that child begins to grow up, and I say, well, don't go lift weights and don't go play football because then you shall become a man. I mean, wait a minute. You know what I mean? You see, that was a Jewish propaganda against the tree of life because the tree of life was a black teaching. When the white man first came down to Canaan, he saw black women sitting as queen mothers. They saw women having non-identical but equal power and position in society. They were priestesses, queen mothers, running businesses, running the marketplace, owning, farms, and, as black women have always, done in traditional Africa from time immemorial to this day. You go to Kumasi in Ghana, you find that only women sell in the marketplace. The men can carry things, but they can't sell in the marketplace. They run the market. You go to Africa, you see all kind of queen mothers. There are more queen mothers than there are kings. The kings are chosen by the queen mother in Ghana. The Pharaoh was chosen by the queen mother in Egypt. You study the history of Egypt, and you'll find that the name of the princes hardly show up in the records, but the name of the princesses are all there. Is it? When you study your history, you find that the black woman was always respected and honored by the black man. But the black man is not a coward. Only a coward is afraid of women's power. This thing about the wars and sex, that's a white man's problem. That's nothing to do with us. Study your history. You find that that's not our problem. If there's a problem, no, it's because we have forgotten who we are and we're following somebody else. Is it? So when he came and he saw that the black woman had so much power, his woman that he kept down, the white man always keep his woman down from time immemorial, patriarchal nation. The white woman started to say, you see, look, women do have brains, women do have, So the white man wrote in the Bible, it says, after God made man and made trees and heaven and everything, all the creeping things, the cockroaches, the worms, everything was made but woman. According to the Bible, God made everything and even think of making woman. It's a good thing that Adam was not like Michael Jackson. If Adam was happy to play with that monkey, one of those monkeys that God made, woman would never have been born made. But Adam, he got bored. The boy had good sense. He was playing with all these animals and he named them all and he said, but damn, I'm bored, man, need something else. I don't know what it is, but I need something else. So God put him to sleep. Go to the brain or, some important part of the body. He went to the rib. Don't you see a calculation to derogate women? After everything was made, roaches, slime mold, worms, fleas, ticks, tadpoles. God didn't even want to make woman. So only when Adam, got tired of playing with the animals and things of that nature, that God made woman from an insignificant part, a rib. That's just simply somebody writing propaganda to make sure that, to have, since the Bible was also the political law book, to get divine, dispensation to put women down.
Ankhobia, empowering the community with the honor level talk show.
And then if that was not enough, to seal the nail in the coffin, made woman the cause of everything, every misfortune that befell man. Because, Adam couldn't do nothing wrong. He didn't have a mommy or a papi to guide him. He couldn't do nothing wrong. You know us, man. We can't do nothing wrong. It's the woman, man. Is it? Well, that's not a guide for you. What kind of a guide is that? How can this book help us to respect women? And if we don't respect women, how can we have, a respectable, harmonious family marriage and so forth? We need the teachings that will make us understand ourselves, understand women, how to respect each other as a precondition to have a family. That's why family is so messed up. That's why men and women can't get along, because, they go to a system of spiritual cultivation that lacks the power, lacks the information to really teach them how to function. So, the Bible was putting down everything that black people was about. The black man was a farmer. Everywhere in antiquity, the black man is a farmer. The white man is a shepherd. The black man is settled. He's in one place farming. The white man is a nomad. Following the sheep all over the place. You follow what I'm saying? You see? So what, to put what black people are doing down, you see, punishment is doing farm labor. Right? You with me? When the farmer came and brought his first fruits to God, right, Cain, right? God said, no, I don't want it. The Bible never said why. Right? Wasn't the brother doing the right thing? He brought his first fruit. He didn't eat his first fruit and brought God his second fruit. He brought God the first fruits. God rejects it. Then when the other brother, who's a shepherd, because you see, black people are farmers, white people are shepherds in those days, you see. When the white boy now brings a shepherd, God says, oh yeah, good. Brings a sheep, You see? Punishment upon the Bible is to have to farm, to work the soil, to till the soil, meaning farm work, meaning black people's work. And heaven is where? A place of milk and honey, meaning a shepherd's, dream. So I want you to understand, you see, because people read the Bible but don't know how to understand the Bible. I understand the Bible because when I read the Bible, I take it into meditation. When you go into meditation, your physical body goes to sleep. And all the energy that would otherwise be used to keep the physical body awakened and moving and acting is then withdrawn into the mind. So the mind now has more energy and more power, so you can see more clearly, think more clearly, even transcend thinking, and know without even thinking. Yes, sir. That's how I was able to figure these things out for myself. This tree of life is a black thing, ancient Egyptian, Canaanitic. Where you find black people, they talk about the tree of life. They didn't want the Jews to learn that. You see, but because the black people were studying these things, using these things. What is the tree of life? Oser, Tehute, Seker, Ma'at, Herukuhute, Heru, Het-Heru, Sebek, Oset, Geb. These are the 10 main gods of the ancient Egyptian system, the Kemetic system. Now, what are gods? Let's take Sebek. When the white man talks about Sebek or any of these gods, he calls them gods. But Sebek appears in the Bible under the name as the angel Raphael. Is it? This same intelligence in nature appears in the Yoruba land as the god, the Orisha Elegba. And in European astrology as the planet Mercury. Oset, which is really the African prototype and origin of the Virgin Mary. So that's where they got the Virgin Mary from. And that little baby she has in her hands is where they got Jesus from. If you take time out to study the Egyptian mysteries and teachings, you find that Christianity was copied from Egypt. That's why the first virgins, which are still around in the European churches, are black, the so-called black Madonnas, because it's 1,000 years before Christianity, Virgin Mary was black. Her name was Oset, whom the Greeks call Isis. This Pope, the one who is now the Pope, the man from Poland, the church where he came from in Poland, when he went back to Poland for the first time, I don't know if you saw it on the BBC, but we saw it in New York when they shot inside the church, they shot that black virgin. The camera hit it by mistake and they tried to take the camera off, but it was too late. I got it on tape. I got it on VHS tape. In the Vatican, there's a black Madonna where the Pope every day goes down and prays to. Every single day, that's the tradition of all popes, and the first pope to today, they have to go first in the morning, go down and bow down to that statue and pray to it. Because the white man knows that the first man was black. And since everybody comes out of the same gene pool, their mamas and their papas were black, so they have to give respect to their mothers and their fathers every day. They won't tell you, though. In Yoruba land, Oset shows up as Yemaya. The white man says that's an Orisha, a god. They say they're polytheistic. But in the Bible, Oset, Yemaya, meaning Isis, shows up as the Archangel Gabriel. You see? Het-Heru over here appears as the angel Hanael, or the Orisha Oshun, or the planet Venus. Heru appears as the angel, the archangel Michael, the dragon slayer. The Orisha Shango in Trinidad and in Yoruba land, the planet, the sun. Yes, sir. And in Christianity, it's Jesus Christ. You know that crown on Jesus, it's a halo that you see around the sun. And some days you look at the sun, it has a halo. That's the crown of Jesus. That halo you see over Jesus, right? That's doing the solar corona, that's all it is. Yes, sir. They call these same intelligences in nature angels so that they can pass as monotheists. As monotheists. Yes, sir. They say God has these messengers called angels, so we are monotheistic. But you African people, you niggers are backwards, you're primitive, you believe in many gods, you're polytheistic. These are the same intelligences that the otherwise call angels. We are not polytheistic, never was polytheistic. In my book, the Medunatir, I quoted an Egyptian book that anybody can find in any good library, which was written in, at least the year 2500 BC. And that copy of the book was a copy of an older book. That is before the birth of Abraham. That is 1,000 years before Moses was supposed to have been born. In that book, it is said in black and white that the Egyptians believed in one God. The creator in that story says, I am God one, no other existed with me before me, and out of me came the many gods. You see, who are the administrators of the world. From God one came God two, from two came four, 8, and so on and so on and so on. Meaning that that was a pronouncement of a great doctrine where the one supreme being creates, spiritual intelligences, metaphysical intelligences through which to create and administer the world. Your body is not one body. Your body is made up of thousands of different kinds of little bodies that you call cells. And there are billions of little creatures making up this one thing you call a body. You look like one, but you're really billions. You see? And all of the billions of these cells work in harmony with each other. You see? All the billions of little creatures making up your physical body work as one. The same thing, your spirit is made up of many other smaller entities, metaphysical entities, spiritual entities that work with the one supreme being as one. The white man, when he came to study in Egypt, could not understand how could many be one. It's like in a government, you have many governors and mayors and, administrators. You say, but one leader. You don't have many different governments. You have one leader with many governmental officials. The same way you have one supreme being and many intelligences. No African nation is polytheistic. When you take the time out, and my mission is to teach you the greatness of your African tradition, because the white man, in order to conquer you and enslave you, you see, he has to take you away from your culture. Because as long as you don't identify with your culture, you are going to identify with him. You see? And as long as you identify with him, you're going to love him. You're going to want to be like him. You see, you're going to want to be accepted by him. So you're going to do everything to be like him. You will honor and celebrate the way he dresses, the way he eats, the way he walks, the way he talks. Become ashamed of your indigenous way of talking, of dressing. You won't take time out to look into your ancient African heritage. You see? Because he's made you ashamed of your history and your culture, your religion, by making you believe that it's heathen and primitive and things of that nature. While he is steadily in the back door, in the back room, studying your ancient books. Using it against you. And I'm going to show you how later on. These are not gods. In the Kemetic, the ancient Egyptian language, the spiritual intelligences that the white man called gods are called Het-Heru. Het-Heru. The white man chose to call them gods, but what he means by gods is not what we mean by Het-Heru. Yes, sir? These images you see here are not the way the intelligences look. These are metaphors to help you understand how these intelligences within you function. Yes, sir? Take, for instance, Sebek. Sebek is that part of your mind, that part of your brain, that translates what you know and feel into words. What Mr. Wernicke and Mr. Broca found in the left temporal hemisphere, this part of your brain here, the speech centers of the brain. If you have damage, you get a shrapnel, a bullet, or whatever, concussion in that part of your brain, you will know what you want to say, but you will not be able to to verbalize your thoughts. You will not be able to verbalize what you think. You understand what I'm talking about? You cannot give verbal expressions. You have to sign language. You have to then communicate through pictures and sign language and so forth. You with me now? So Sebek, that jackal, wolf-headed, cunning creature, is symbolical of that part of your brain. Why? Because your ancient Egyptian ancestors knew that the part of you that enables you to translate your thoughts into words, to verbalize your thoughts. Because you can think in pictures, can you? You don't have to think in words. You can think in pictures. So that part of you that think in words is a part of you that also is responsible for your cunning. It is that which within you is the center of trichology. So we metaphorize it as a fox, because this fox is cunning, smart, And we say and when you look at the black man's culture all over the world, we find that is the master trickster, and it's a sign of the white man. It governs the white man. That cunning, double talk, Like the American Indian say, white man, you speak with forked tongue. You say two things at the same time. Okay? You see, let's take the other side, Het-Heru. Het-Heru is that part of your brain in the right hemisphere now. See, Sebek is on the left hemisphere. Het-Heru is in the right hemisphere. That's the part of your brain that enables you to think in forms, in images, to think in rhythms and shapes, nonverbal thinking. That's the part the artist uses to create. That's the part that the inventor uses to create. That's the creative part of you. You see, that's the imagination. It's on the right side of the brain. Now, you can say that's the god Sebek and the goddess Het-Heru, meaning Mercury, planet Mercury, or the planet Venus. Choose your mythology. You can choose another mythology. You can say this is the left side of the brain, the lower left side of the brain, the lower right side of the brain. You see? You can say this is the angel Raphael and the angel Hanael. Or the Orisha Elegba Norisha, Oshun. You see? The big difference, though, is that, let's say that you have problems. This part of you that governs the left side of your brain, Sebek. Okay? Our metaphor, just, when you go to the white man books, they say, well, this part of your brain governs the speech center. In Egypt, we know that, but we go one step further. We say it's the cunning within you. It's also that part of you that governs your ability to process mathematics, meaning the hard, inflexible sciences, mathematics, physics, the non-creative side of you, the going by the book side of you. Because the other side, Het-Heru, is creative, imaginative. You with me? It invents. It doesn't go by the book. You see, when there's no book, no formula for how to do it, Het-Heru, the other side of the tree, invents a way to do it. The left side of the brain that goes by the book. Because in physics and chemistry and mathematics, you got to go by the book. Because 2 and 2 can only give you one answer. You understand? Oxygen is, a specific atomic number and atomic weight and valence or whatever. You got to go by the book. You cannot jive your way through chemistry. Ask me to write an essay. Whew, I'm home free now. You see? Mm-hmm. So let's say that your schooling depends on it. You want to get a degree, and you're one of these people that study mathematics and chemical equations all day long. Can't get no more than a C. You know people like that? Sure you do. Some of you are looking at yourself. You study all day long, all week long, and you just C's in math or chemistry or whatever, you're hopeless. Then this other fool over here never studies. A+ in mathematics and chemistry or whatever, You see? Now, Western education cannot address itself to that problem that people encounter. You see what's lacking now in the Western system. If you study all day long and can't even pass a math or a chemistry or physics subject, why should you be penalized when somebody else doesn't have to study? They come in and they have a talent for it. Am I speaking the truth or not here? But the Western school has no way of dealing with that. It doesn't even address it. It's blind to it. It's ignorant to that. In the ancient tradition of Egypt, we would say, my brother, don't worry about it. You're hopeless at mathematics right now? Don't worry about it. Sit down and chant the sound Ayin mentally. They give you a little chant that incorporates the sound Ayin. Like I am Het-Heru. The man who mastered that word of power and was deified as patron of medicine in the year 2000 BC in Egypt. He said, Imhotep. That's why you don't recognize the correct pronunciation. It's I am Het-Heru. Conceives the word of power, Ayin. You see? You chant the word Ayin, breathing a certain way. You're going to slow your breath down from the normal 18 breaths per minute that you normally take to about 3 or 4.5 breaths per minute. Breathing very deeply. You see? And you're going to chant in harmony in rhythm with the breath. Over and over and over again for an hour, half an hour or so. And that breathing and that chanting will take you into a state of trance. It will withdraw your consciousness from your 5 senses. So that your eyes will look but don't see. Your ears will receive messages but you won't hear. You won't even feel your seat on the chair. You might feel yourself floating because your consciousness has been detached from your physical body, has been freed from the prison of this physical body and entered into some higher part of the spirit. You see? Or you might feel as if you weigh 10,000 pounds glued down somewhere. Make no difference. The point is that you have entered into an altered state of consciousness, where the energy has been withdrawn from the body to give it to the mind. That's why the body feels very different. And you go into trance with the sound Ayin. Now, what do the physicists say? Let's get back to Earth, y'all. Y'all going mystic on me right now. Let's get scientific again now here. Now, what do the physicists say about the sound, sounds, period? They say that every time you emit a sound, you are generating heat waves, caloric energies. And each sound has its own special wave form. And each wave form, electromagnetic wave form, has an affinity for its own type of manifestation in nature, its own type of biochemical, biophysical effect. So your ancestors in Egypt and in Sumer and in Black India and in Canaan and Ethiopian Kush, the 5 great black nations that invented civilization thousands of years before anybody else did, they were already mature, old civilizations when everybody was still in the Stone Age, running around in caves and following the sheep. They classified what every single sound did. You say you must sing. That's what your heart, your soul wants to do, but you can't carry a straight note. The white man will say, well, son, you can't carry a straight note. Forget about music. Can't teach you that. I can teach you music theory. But if you can't carry a straight note, you're tone deaf, I can't teach that to you. You were not born to sing. The African says no such realities. Every person is born with infinite potential, meaning everybody's born in the likeness of God. You see? If a potential within you is sleeping and you need it, there's a way of awakening it. See? And everything, says the physicist, vibrates, meaning everything makes a sound. If you haven't done this yet, next time you get to a piano, open up the top, put your foot on the rightmost pedal and sing any note. Oh! And you'll hear the strings that were once sleeping start to vibrate in unison with the sound that you sung into the piano. Don't play the key, just put the pedal down, the rightmost pedal, right? And then sing any note and you'll hear an echo in the piano. That's the fundamental key. What you have done, you have evoked, called out of latency something that was in a potential state into an active state. Every single ability that you see somebody else in the world doing is slumbering, is at rest within you. You see? Like the strings of a piano. You see? Going into trance is analogous to removing the dampening pedal so that the strings can freely vibrate now. You with me? And then now chanting the word of power will then now set into motion, you see, the corresponding faculty within you. When you are good at mathematics or physics or chemistry and you can do it without studying and so forth, you have a talent for it, it's because, you see, you were born with that power in awakened state. And if you could hear, and everything vibrates, says the physicist, correct? Everything moves. Motion is a universal characteristic of everything that has existence. So what sound, if you are a natural born physicist, what sound is the faculty of physics and mathematics making within you? If you can hear it, it is making the sound, aing, 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 you see? So when it is at rest and you go into trance, meaning take the dampening pedal off, and you chant the sound aing, repeatedly while you are in trance, it will then set that faculty into motion. And after several weeks or months or a year or two, depending on how backwards you were how dead that faculty was, at some point you'll find yourself a mathematical wizard or a physicist or a chemist or whatever. When you read my book, some people come up to me and say, damn, brother, I don't know, man. You seem to be good at science and art and chemistry and physics and all these things. Man, where do you learn all these things? I think it's simply awakening the faculties within me. That's all I did. That's what I want to share with you. I write books on medicine. I write books on homeopathy and herbalism and nutrition. On sociology, on meditation, on science. And I never completed university. Couldn't take it. I did 4.5 years and walked out. Couldn't take the racism. Didn't need the papers. I don't advocate that for everybody. Get the paper. We all have different paths. And I respect those of you who have the papers and things of that nature. I just talk about my path. You see? Because I needed to be a living example that the kingdom is within you. All the power is within you. When a man wants to conquer you, he tells you the power is outside of you. The power is in something that he controls. He says, your salvation is in this pound, and I control it, I mint it. Your salvation is in this parliament, which I control. Your salvation, he, the man himself, will tell you, your salvation is in guns, get them. He pays one of you to say that to you, because he controls the guns too. Because he knows that the power is within you. And if you study the history, you find that history testifies that of all the people on the face of the earth, the black man has the greatest ability to use the power of the Spirit. And let nobody kid you. It is greater than any external thing. You see? You hope it's a mathematics? Anybody here hope it's a mathematics? Physics, chemistry? If you got the talent, just not simply reading the book, it's a talent. Everything is a talent. And the word talent is opposite to the word latent. You see, they played on those two words, you see? So talent is nothing else but, an awakened latent power. You get a talent, you don't have it, it's latent. It's not absent, it's latent. So they play. They put these words as messages, special messages to themselves. That's how Sebek plays with games and hides, reveals the truth but hides it. He says, talent latent, talent latent, talent latent. Now you see it, now you don't. That's why he's a troublemaker, Cleverness with words, That rap. Speaks with forked tongue, So the thing is that, you see, because somebody told you that religion was the opiate of the masses. Somebody told you that to pursue meditation is mysticism. Let me tell you something. Anybody who told you that never met true African religion. Never met true African meditation. They met something else masquerading as religion and something else meditating as meditation. Because true meditation is to awaken those powers, those talents that you need to get up in the world. We have a queen mother in our society. Child completed 1-year college. Right now, she is the biggest independent manufacturer of traditional African cosmetics in the United States. She never went to school to learn how to make cosmetics. She went into trance for several years with the sound cling, which corresponds to Het-Heru, the faculty inside of you that is responsible for invention and creation, creativity, artistry, and so forth. She brought her breath down to 4.5 breaths per minute, chanting, a chant that incorporates the sound cling. Cling, so. Cling, so. Those words don't mean a damn thing. Because we're not using the words for their meaning, but for the particular kind of energies they awaken. Because you see, don't forget that, words are sounds, and sounds are energies. And we're talking about power, you see? Your books of physics defines energy as the capacity to do work. So there are things in your spirit that has the capacity to do work. And when you awaken the Het-Heru faculty within you, a person who is, pedantic, that goes by the book, and can create and so forth, all of a sudden find yourself inventing, creating things. All of a sudden you can hear a melody now. You couldn't hear a melody before. If your drawing was mediocre, now you're very artistic and creative in your drawing. If your singing was barely making it, now you can sing real good. You see? Because you've heard lots of people who have a nice voice, but still can't get anywhere. They don't have that creativity. You see, your great singers, it's not because they have a nice voice. It's because they have something inventive, creative about the way they sing. You see, and you cannot teach that through anything in the white man's school on music. It's something that, you see, comes from inside of you. You have to awaken that something inside of you. That's what meditation is all about. Manhood. How you make a man? Manhood is not how many women you can make it with. Manhood is not how many men you can beat up. That's what you believe. Then you succumb to what the master wants you to believe in order to destabilize you. Because you're only going to go beat up your own kind and mess with your own women. So you won't have a family, you won't have a society. Brothers can't come together. They're afraid of each other. And so on and so on. There's a faculty within you which is the source of manhood. Het-Heru. It's faculty of leadership. A man or a woman chants the sound, Het-Heru. He's in trance. Then the leadership comes into manifestation. Some of you have jobs, and you've been in the job for 10 years. Same position. Other people come and pass you by because there's something inside of them that, is that ambition, that drive, that get up and get ahead and so forth. Some of you brothers, want to lead the others, but you lack that talent of leadership. Many of you brothers inside here, you look around and you say, my God, what's happened to our people? Yes, and you get frustrated because you try to talk to them and so forth, but they ain't listening to you and following you. Not that you're not intelligent enough. You know you're intelligent enough. You have the rapid information, but you don't exude that power of leadership. I'm here in front of you all the way from New York. My community is in 15 different cities. I went to Ghana, they made me king. Last year I was in Kano, in Nigeria, in Ile-Ife, with the Oni of Ife and the Emir of Kano. They had a durbar for me, royal reception and so forth. I waited to celebrate Ile-Ife Day, the first Ile-Ife Day in Yoruba land. Why? Because I exude leadership. Why? Because you see, for many years I sat down and just went to trance with the song, ring. Because when a man is a leader, now some people are born with it in a waking state. El-Hajj Malik el-Shabazz, Malcolm X. Now he didn't sit down and chant this, he was born with it in a waking state. But do we need to sit down and wait another 200 years for somebody to be born naturally with that power awakened to have another Malcolm X, another Bob Marley, another Marcus Garvey? When in Africa, you say leaders are very important. You need leaders. When in Africa, we wanted leaders. In ancient Egypt, we wanted leaders. We cultivated them. We saw a couple of brothers who were, really caring about what's happening with the people. They took time to study history. Took time, instead of going to some boogie party or whatever, to come and hear a lecture on African history and culture and meditation and things of that nature, because they want to learn more to help their people. And when the ancient priests saw brothers and sisters like that, they say, well, let's call out of latency. Let's call out of the slumbering state the power of leadership. This is true leadership. These are the true leaders. Because the white man is giving you a wrong formula of leadership, a wrong formula for leadership. Man tries to run a beauty contest. Do you like this man? Do you like this woman? You know, vote for it. No, you don't vote for leaders. Marcus Garvey did not become a leader because somebody voted for him. You want true leadership, that leadership must emerge as something about natural leadership that is imposing, that imposes itself. You cannot turn away from that presence. You understand what I'm talking about? That's something that comes from within. So we need leadership in the communities. I've seen so many brothers and sisters, man, for 20, 30 years, man, they've been telling the people, you got to buy black, you have to stop doing this, you have to do that. And people don't listen, and they get frustrated, and they damn the people, not understanding that the power of leadership inside of them was not strong enough yet. You see, because when Marcus Garvey and Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Bob Marley, these people stood up, you had to listen. They weren't saying anything different from what many of you in the streets are saying. They were saying the same thing. You know the word African American. Just in a few years, it has become fashionable to say African American. The word African American was coined about some, 50 years ago. You see, but the man who invented the term didn't have that thing inside that exuded the power that when he said African American, people would turn around and say, yeah, when you meditate and awaken the leadership power within you, then you will have leaders in the community. I know that many of you all are probably skeptic about this. And don't ask me for proof before you do it. Some things you got to do it. And it will prove itself to you. You see? Tehute. It's a faculty inside of you that knows everything. There's a faculty inside of you that knows how to take bread and break it down into its simplest components and reorganize it into all of the nutrients and things that your body needs to run itself. There's a faculty within you that knows how to repair a cut, knows how to make a baby from 2 cells, a whole full human being from 2 cells. There's a faculty inside of you that is the repository of the intelligence and the knowledge that Supreme Being has. That's why the Bible in Genesis 1:21 said, and God said, let us make man in our likeness. The likeness of God in which man is made is that man is made with that potential to know everything. The potential to accomplish things through the power of the Spirit. And the potential to be any place. You ever heard of people talk about astral projection, where you withdraw your consciousness from your body and send it to other places? You understand? You're just not limited to your physical body. You have that same divine potential. That's why in South Africa, among the Bantu people, the categorical name for God is Muntu. And the categorical name for man is Muntu. Because, says the great Zulu teacher, only God and man possess Ubwenge, which is a power to affect nature through the use of your spirit. If you want to influence somebody else, you're not restricted to using your hands or speech or some external instrument. You can use your mind to influence somebody else. You can affect somebody's health with your own spiritual power, for good or for bad. You can influence somebody's thinking about something, somebody's feeling about something. And everything that any
man knows today have ultimately and originally came out of somebody else's head. There was a time when there were no radios, no television, no writing, no agriculture, no astronomy, no mathematics. So whoever first practiced mathematics got it out of his own head. All knowledge is residing in the spirit world within your own spiritual capacity. And there's a faculty inside of you that if you can awaken, you can intuit the solution to any problem that confronts you. You are not limited to going to some teacher outside of you, some book outside of you to solve your problems. You can meditate and go inside of you. You see, to find the solutions to the problem. People always walk up to me and say, Shekhan, how are we going to solve this problem in the black community? I went inside of me and I chanted the song, that's the middle word of Te-Huti. You see, the word Te-Huti conceals the word of power, You need to solve the problem. It's already solved. Black people in America already earn close to $400 billion. They already beat the white man already. They already won the war. They just don't know it. What we need now to do is to bring black people together now. And that's going to be a bigger war than beating the white man. If Africans in the Caribbean, here in the UK, earn £750 million, haven't you already won the revolution? Haven't you? Shall we meditate first? Haven't you won the war already against the man? You have won that war. Because you've already earned £750 million. Put some of that together in one place to work for your welfare. Put 1% of that in one kitty. That's like £5 a week for every man and woman, black man and woman in this country. Can you afford to put £5 a week into a common kitty? Will that break you? No, it won't, right? If you all could put £5 a week into one kitty and earmark the money for, job trainings, investment monies, your own schools, your own health care, legal defense funds, things of that nature, your problems are over. The Indians do it. How do you think they got all those stories? I'm not asking you to do something that nobody else is doing. The white people here are doing it. The Koreans who set up stores and all the neighbors of the Negroes in America doing the same thing, putting the money together. The Jews doing it. Not asking you to do something that nobody else is doing. You see, there's a faculty inside of you, the faculty. The second spirit. This is, Osed is the first spirit, Tehut is the second, Seth is the third, Ma'at the fourth, Herukuhut is the fifth, and so on. Heru the sixth. There are 10 of them. So these, through meditation, you're able to awaken different parts of you. You see, this clever faculty in Sebek says, you're worshiping God when you sit down and you go into trance, chanting a sound, meaning, shaking to awaken something that's slumbering, you see. He said you're worshiping, when the original was that you were word-shipping. The word-ship, like penmanship and swordsmanship. You know. Is it? You are word-shipping. The word-ship. Is it? Because you find that the New Testament says that John said, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. See, your Bible itself tells you that the Word has divine power in it by equating words, meaning sound, with God. Then it hides it from you by saying the words of Jesus. But it says to you, the Word came to dwell among, men. The Word became flesh. And that Word that becomes flesh, you use it every day and don't see it. This is a person. That's a person. That's a person. That's a person. Well, what's a person? Go to your Oxford Dictionary and you find that the word person that you use to describe each other is made up of two words. Per, which means through, and son means sona or sound. Is it? So you are something through which a sound, is made, through which a sound is coming through. Why? Because those of us, who are, by nature good at mathematics and physics and so forth, the sound ayin, shapes our personality. But, and it makes us, good speakers and good with words and mathematics, and we go by the book and we want, logical proof for everything, and we can hide the truth with words more than we reveal truth with words, Okay? Those of us who can express Het-Heru, for example, are our artistic people, creative, the life of the party, and so forth. It's meaning that these words, not only do they lay behind our talents, they also shape our personalities and are our personalities. Not only do these words shape personalities and so forth and lay behind talents, they're also the seats of what we call occult power. Fekoset, who's Yemaya in Nigeria, among the Yorubas, Gabriel in the Bible. If you have a woman, a wife, whose maternal qualities are lacking, you don't fight with her, and the woman herself will not feel bad about that. She has children. She should have strong maternal qualities so that she can take proper care of her children, and so forth. She shan't, rang duhun. Our own tongue. Those are the sounds of the Oset. Going to trance with those sounds and the maternal qualities in the woman come into full fruition. You find that these sounds can also heal. We have some priestesses in our society, women who have trained for many years, that they have a record now of 18 out of 23 women who the doctors say can't have any children. Because that part of your spirit governs your female, your feminine faculties and powers. The doctor says you can't have any more children. Some of them never had children. And these women will go into trance with the sound all the time and chant on behalf of the women who have a problem. And 18 of these 23 women are now mothers, some of them 2 times, 3-time mothers. Because the same way your laws of physics tell you that when a sound is made, it propagates itself indefinitely, infinitely into space. Every sound that you make called a thought. Thinking, verbally, is making a sound, right? Correct? When you're thinking, you're making a sound in the inner planes. And that sound travels from your mind on out. You see? And if you can repeat that sound over and over and over again, and instead of trance, you're concentrating that sound. That's like water dripping, 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 dripping till it wears out the pavement, you see? Till it wears out a rock. You see? So, when you concentrate a sound that has a particular power, you can affect people in that direction. So we have used these sounds to heal. You know. We have used these sounds to free brothers from jail when they were railroaded. We have a case where a brother got, they gave him life, and he spent 19 years in jail, railroaded, a panther. And he finally came to us, and we did, we hooked him up with this mantra here. After 19 years, he had the best lawyers, Constable and all these guys in the States. Best criminal defense lawyers and things like that. All of a sudden they found, things that they had looked at a million times made sense to them, and they went back to the judge and so forth and said, look, review this. 3 months after the brother and his wife started to do the meditations, the man became free. Now he's running all over the world, giving lectures, resumed the cause that he had dropped 19 years ago. We had brothers who did the crime. Sawed off shotgun, went to hell of a place, landed in jail, then they called me up. Said, please, man, help me, man. I'm facing, 12 to 20 now. I said, you did the crime. No, I said, don't jive me. All right, I did the crime. But I can't spend 12 to 20. As I help you, because even though you shouldn't do the crime, I understand that the man's been messing and jiving with us. You see. But I give these brothers in jail meditations to do. This young man, worked very hard. And after a year of meditating and so forth, and it's interesting that he would, pass the knowledge on to other brothers, and they were getting out of jail. And he was like, what's wrong with me, man? I can't get out. What the person I'm helping getting out? He's being tested, you understand? Then when his time came up, instead of getting 12 to 20, he got 4 years. His lawyer blew her mind. This was one of those, government-appointed lawyers, which is, terrible, but all the brothers in that position. You have some government-appointed lawyer, and you're looking at 12 to 20, you want an expert lawyer, but you can't afford one. And when the lawyer went up to the judge, the judge said, wait a minute, recessed and came back and said 4 years, blew the lawyer's mind. She said, I don't know how this happened, but let's get out of here before he changes his mind. What I want you to understand is that the white man has understood your culture because he took the time out to study it. If you don't believe me, go to your libraries and count how many Egyptian books there are. Count how many books on the Yoruba religion there are. Check out the books on the Tree religion, on the Dahomian religion, and you'll find out that the white man has spent millions of dollars digging up all over Egypt and Sumer and Iraq and so forth in the black world to learn your religion. How much time have you put into it? Because that is why he's on top, you are below. He used your science. Because every white man that is in power in the white world is a Mason. And Masonry is nothing else but the teachings that I've been talking about. My brothers and sisters, we have to get beyond, you see, the time where we spend all our time, you see, just using clever words and music and These kind of a thing. It's not nice for that, but you have to now go back to the inner cultivation. Take some time, my brothers and sisters. Don't let me come all the way from America here and go back home and you don't do this. Take some time. Give yourself 1 year. Study your history. Find out the truth about ancient Egypt. When I come back again next year or whatever, tell me that you now know that when the Egyptians and the blacks of Sumer and Ethiopia and Black India in Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa Valley and the blacks of Canaan 5,000-6,000 years ago were already mature civilized people with arithmetic and calculus and trigonometry and geometry and algebra and astronomy, architecture, medicine, internal revenue services. The average black man living in duplexes in Egypt and Sumer and Black India. They had under 6,000 years ago, they had on-the-ground sewage, taking the sewage matter, waste matter from the houses down to the sea. We were advanced, bureaucratic, urban people 6,000 years ago. The Caucasian and the Asian man were still in a Stone Age existence. He knows it. It's history books. It blows his mind every day. Don't you know why he has set up a prejudicial world? If I know a man is going to beat the pants off of me and I'm going to run a race against him, I want to handicap him.
Ankhobia, empowering the community with the unleveled talk show.
Take time out to find out the great things that your ancestors did to establish civilization in the world. And then ask yourself, how did they do it? Why were they doing this when everybody else was behind somewhere? And you will discover it's because they discovered the science of what words of power awaken what dormant part of the brain. There are many words of powers, but the main ones, the 10 main ones that make up what is called the tree of life. When you chant the word of Osir, you awaken that part of you that is one with God. It will enable you to unite yourself and the people around you. Unity is a problem in the black community. You see? But unification, the people have to come through the spirit of a man who has some intuitive ability to unite the people. You see? People like Marcus Garvey brought people around him. There's some talent that he had to unite people. He had 6 million people all over the world. You know what I'm saying? All doing or trying to do the same thing as he taught them. You don't sit down and complain that people ain't got no unity. That's because there's a faculty inside of you that governs unity. Learn how to awaken it in yourself and in others. Some people are born with it awakened, but most people, it's a slumbering. Through meditation, chanting the words of powers of Osir, you can awaken that power. Tehute, the word of power of Tehute, will bring prophets among you once more again. Prophets is not something that some man or some group of men in the biblical times or whatever came a noble prophet in the world. Prophets, the ability to understand things without going to books or whatever, is a power within every one of us. But it's asleep because it's high. You see, the lowest power is on the bottom, the highest power on top. You see? Seker corresponds to your power to affect other people and nature with your own spiritual power. Ma'at is that part of you that enables you to intuitively understand, the relationship between things, what we call divine law. There's a natural relationship between things that if you violate that relationship, you see, if you put diesel in a car that runs on gas, you won't have problems because that's not the natural relationship. And there are a lot of one-to-one relationships in nature, in society, that we are breaking, don't understand anymore. Because we don't know how to solve. That's why we can't put together communities that work. We even use the word communities and don't have communities. Community means a common unity. It doesn't mean people living in the same physical location. A common unity. You don't have common unities. The words be talking to you and you're blind to the words. Because you got to meditate more now. Is that part of you? Lord have mercy. They don't want to talk about that part of you. You see, he's holding that spear in his hand. There's a part of you that if you are not afraid, if you can find the courage within you to sacrifice yourself, if you find yourself in a situation where your rising has to bring somebody else down, and you choose not to bring the other person down so that you can rise, then the law, as a man soweth, so shall he reap, kicks into manifestation. Meaning that if you give justice to another man, then God gives justice to you. That's one of the greatest secrets of how you can invoke divine power to protect you. When you are deserving, if you make yourself deserving of divine power, and it's a word of power called Het-Heru, you chant that word of power, and that word of power will accelerate what's called your karma, those debts that you have to pay back to others and so forth. And it will bring you into a position where living truth forces you to do something that will cause you a loss if you do the truth, or it will cause somebody else a loss if you look out for yourself instead. You with me? And if you can rise to the power to live truth, because you don't want to hurt somebody at your expense, then you pile up the merit so that the day when somebody messes with you, no matter who that man or woman is, no matter how many guns that man has, how many battleships and missiles or whatever, God will bring that person down. The Bible is talking about divine justice and protection, but they give you the secret, the spiritual formulas for that. They call him Ogun in Yoruba. That's the deity that our brother Sam the Overseer invoked in Haiti. You study that, you find that to this day, the white historians are like, damn, what happened? Do you know that Napoleon sent his best crack elite army to Haiti? Well-armed crack soldiers. They got their butts whooped by people with pitchforks and machetes and sticks and bow and arrows. Don't know what hit them. The French master would get up in the morning and farm, and the bush would just burst in flames in front of him. How? Get back into your culture. That's your power. Het-Heru, that part of you, again, like I said, leadership. Het-Heru, your artistic creativity. So that your ability, you want to beat the white man as his own technological game. Be better than mathematics and physics and chemistry and outsmart him in the game of trichology. That's your teacher there, Sebek, something inside of you, If you have to read a book on how to wheel and deal, you're in trouble. Because the natural born wheel and dealer got you beat. But you can awaken that faculty within you, you see? It says that maternal faculty within you that will enable you to learn how to nourish and take care of yourself and others and so forth. Good. That's the words of power that governs your physical health and vitality. There are certain words of powers that if you chant on a regular basis, they will bolster your immune system, keep you healthy. You don't have to rely so much on medicines and herbs and things like that, you see? Because it says the power of the mind over the body But the power of the mind over the body is that you have to set energy into motion for that. You know, the mind over the body is just not simply the knowledge that that is a reality. It's just not simply, you can't think, be healthy. You have to nourish a certain kind of energy. And the words of power that you can chant. So these so-called gods of Egypt are really faculties in your brain, in your spirit. You see? And we know exactly what colors, what perfumes, what sounds, you see, to use and so forth. You know, I wish I had more time to tell you the whole story because, you see, every one of these faculties have been incorporated into a system called oracles. It's my book, sold separately, is a set of cards incorporating these Egyptian, symbols, which is the original that became bastardized, years later in the tarot system. But with oracles, you can consult and find out, what's going to happen in a person's life. If you're going to go into business. The oracle says to you, well, you might get a negative setback reading saying that you don't have the business savvy, the business, information, skill, and education to do it, you see. And the answer is then not don't go into business, but make sure you awaken that power within you. You know what I'm talking about now? If the oracle says to you, your ability to wheel and deal business-wise is not strong enough. And if you follow the white man's thing, you think you got to go to business school. There are a lot of people who never went to business school, always getting on up in business. There's something, they got a talent. You see? You see? And when you awaken that power within you, then you can take care of business. I never went to business school. Never had the money, never the time. Many of you sitting down here, wish I could be a businessman, man, but I don't have the money to go to business school. The power to do business, the wheel and deal is inside of you. You want to believe in Jesus? Fine. Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is within you. I'm talking, and this is the kingdom of heaven. That's the powers, the divine powers are within you. Black woman once came to me, woman was sick. I gave her the word of power of that was set there, and she chanted it, and in 2 or 3 days she got well. She was going to die. She got well in 2 days, and her health kept getting on up and on and on and on. And she did nothing else. But I said, you're going to die. She came to me. Desperate, Caught up with a woman a couple of months later, she says, I chanted, and 2 or 3 days I was turning on up. I was good. She says, by the grace of Jesus. I said, that's right, sister. Thank the Lord. Keep chanting. So I just let you understand, brothers and sisters, that you have this great power within you that will help you, whether you're Muslim, Christian, it doesn't matter what you believe. You see. I'm here to help you to understand, though, that if you do not and cannot go back to explore your history, the teachings of the spirit of your ancestors, because you believe it's voodoo or devil worship or whatever, you have succumbed to some, trickology of the white man who wants to keep you from, restoring your power, who wants to keep you from knowing who you are, from knowing your accomplishments so that you cannot be proud of yourself. Because you see, pride in yourself cannot be, and it's just not simply, I'm proud of being black. That doesn't mean a damn thing. I'm telling you, I'm proud to be black. Be proud of accomplishments. No, if somebody says to you, what have you accomplished? Be able to break down to them all the things that black people have created in the world because you study your history. be able to break down the greatest spiritual teachings. You see? Each of these spheres, or so-called deities of the tree of life, represent faculties within the 7 parts of your spirit. You don't have one spirit, you have 7 spirits. I mean, we can get heavy with this stuff here. This is a very complex doctrine. The black man put a greater energy and understanding into creating a complex science of the spirit and the metaphysical world than the white man understands about the physical world and chemistry and physics. As a matter of fact, quite as it kept, Einstein, being a Jew, studied Kabbalah. And E equals mc squared, meaning that energy is matter, in a different modality. It's nothing else but an ancient Kabbalistic or African doctrine. Before Einstein was born, a Jesuit priest went to South Africa and studied the Zulus, who told them that the word for energy is kintu, and the word for matter is kintu. And Placid Temple, the Jesuit priest, wrote back home and wrote a book called Bantu Philosophy, saying these black folks are so primitive and so illogical, so pre-logical. They throw these words around, they don't understand. That they confuse, energy with matter. Then Einstein studies black metaphysics, Kabbalah. The Jews say Kabbalah is theirs. Baloney. The word Kabbalah comes from Sumerian verb Kabbal. I know some of you were told that it comes from Chaldea, and that Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees and so forth. Well, I challenge any one of you to verify to me through any historical record a place or people called Chaldea. Ain't no such place, and ain't no such people. You see? That was a subterfuge to hide Sumer, the land of the black people who gave the Jews, much of their religion and teachings and so forth. After all this mathematical, painstaking, work and so forth, this boy comes and says, energy is matter in a different form. After we were accused of being pre-logical and irrational and primitive-minded for having a word that equates, energy with matter. So this day, white people have a different word for energy and for matter. In the Bantu language, there's one word that links the two. Don't tell me which one is more advanced. They've been stealing your knowledge, the fruits of your spiritual realizations and your powers and so forth, keeping you from it, to keep you in slavery. Because a slave is a man that you can take the chains off, and he fails to rebel. Master was, is he a slave yet? Let me see. Let me take the chains off and see. No, he's not a slave yet. I took the chains off and he almost killed me. Okay, not 100 years of beating, My brothers and sisters, to conclude, I wish I really could have spent the time teaching you how to meditate. Giving you a taste of it. But we don't have the proper setup for that and so forth. So I hope to have removed the negative stigma that has been attached to meditation. Many of you hear meditation presented to you from yogis and things of that nature, and you say, I don't want to deal with that because that's not black. It's not a black thing. But when you read my book, in the first 3-4 chapters, I unmask, all of the tricks that they try to hide the black man in antiquity. I proved in that book, in the first few chapters, about 25 chapters, the first 4 chapters deal with history, then I teach cosmology, and then I teach meditation and initiation, and then I teach the oracles in the book. And then finally come back to meditation itself. So the book covers a great deal. But in the chapters in history, I give you the exact information to show you that the blacks who created yoga, the people who created yoga were black people. You see? From the year, up until the year 2000 BC, there was nothing but black people just like you in India. And the white people, Germanic people, came down. Some settled in India and some settled in Iran. The Iranians became the Persians of today. The Ayatollah committed these people. The other people became the Brahmins who, waged war with the blacks for thousands, hundreds of years and finally defeated them and set up the world's first apartheid system. And then they learned our tradition, and it was exported to China, to Korea, to Japan, to Tibet, and so forth. And then it comes back as the light of the East. But let me tell you, it left Africa black, and it came back to you yellow. You see, you're walking around talking about, I'm a Buddhist. Buddhism is only about 5% of the black teaching that went to the land of Buddhism. You see? Some of you Buddhist chanters in Yam Horinga, whatever, we gave the Japanese, 1,000 mantras. They bring you one mantra back and take your money. The white man came and he learned thousands of mantras. Maharishi Mahesh comes back with 16 mantras and taking your money and teaching you 1% of what there is to learn about meditation and spirituality. And what is he doing with the money he's taking? He's building, Veda Land Park in Canada and in Florida, 2 amusement parks at the tune of $1 billion each park. To have rides that supposedly, simulate man's going through the stages. Come on, man. So my brothers and sisters, I hope that this is not the first time or the last time that you come together to meditate or to learn to meditate or whatever. I hope that you maintain yourself receptive now to learning more about meditation. Now that I hope that you understand how important it is, how critical it is. It's not a mystic thing. It's not an escaping thing. It's awakening the powers that will enable us to prevail in the world. It has great political, economic, social value. I hope from here on, you will seek out the information that brothers and sisters who are here, who can hook up with you, so that you can now sign up when the established classes and so forth and come and actually learn how to do it so that we can come together and begin to benefit from the great harvest that we have already achieved. Because there's about some 750 million pounds floating through the hands of the African Caribbean community here that's not being put to use for your good. One love. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll entertain questions or statements and sharings. Okay?
I was just wondering whether this meditation process, is it something that white people can practice and gain value from in the same way that the black people can gain value from it?
This is something that any and everybody can practice, okay? It cannot be, you cannot abuse people with it. You cannot misuse people with it, otherwise I would not have made it public. You with me? So anybody who practices it will become uplifted. So it is in our interest that other people will also practice this. You understand? Okay. It is people's sense of impotence and the ignorance about themselves that makes them act incorrectly. You follow what I'm saying? Because they feel that they cannot do it, then they steal it from you. So we have to empower everybody.
We can't misuse others or abuse others with this. Anybody else, please?
Two questions. First one is, since European, say, academics, they've studied this, so how come they haven't, for example, got a detailed knowledge of it? Because surely they must have, since they spend an awful lot of money sending scientists over into Kemet or Egypt, studying all this. Secondly, how did this transfer into the Caribbean? The religions of, say, Africa, and how when Africans were taken to the Caribbean, how was it then changed?
Very good. First of all, is that when you come with the wrong intentions towards this, most of it then disappears. You understand? Meaning that, you see, if you try to learn this to abuse other people, then you are only going to pass like 1% of it. You know what I'm talking about? And that 1% can give you so much power. That's what happened. You see? So the thing is that, when the black people were, brought to the Caribbean and America, whatever, they had this knowledge. What happened is that they were prevented from organizing themselves. A lot of measures were put in place to keep the black man from practicing his religion. He was taught that his religion was no good, heathenistic, devilish, and so on, so to make him turn away from it. The white man gave the black man the Bible instead. Ask yourself, if a man is killing you, exploiting you, enslaving you, and he gives you a book that's supposed to give you power and liberation, does that make any sense? So that's what happened, is that we were tricked into believing that, so we gave up. That's what happened. People gave up their teachings to embrace something else. And that's when we have to come to the understanding that in spite of our spirituality and embracing the Bible, we're losing our children to drugs. We're losing, our families in divorces and so forth. So we have to go back to what worked for us before that, because when you study history, you find that before we were brought into slavery, we had families that worked. We had communities that worked. And so forth. All questions? Let's hear from the sisters tonight.
Earlier on you said that many black people have talents, and it's for us to go within ourselves to realise these talents. In my upbringing, having religion, my mother told me that from the Bible there's certain aspects that say each man has a talent and he must use his talent. Would you say that there's probably a similarity in the teachings and thinkings of the Bible? Where it now, even though it's been distorted, that may have remained, and it's those sort of talents which we, as black people, should use, like, say, like many people say they're good at football, they're good at dancing, and etc. These are just talents which are natural, and there are other talents which we've not actually realised we can do, like being mathematicians. Well, we are mathematicians, but sciences and etc.
It is not similar. It's not true that every man has his talents. Every man is born with one or several talents in an active state. But everybody has all the talents that everybody has, but in a latent state. So if you find yourself with life demanding that you have a talent that is latent within you, you can awaken it through meditation. Meaning that, the white man sets the world up so that black people can only express a handful of talents. You can dance, you can sing, you can play football, you can play basketball. But don't come into business and science and things of that nature, But we need those things also because, and it's not true that the black man's sport is dancing and sports and so, because before slavery, and even in traditional Africa to this day, if you go over there, you will find that black people are expressing all of these other talents. It was us who invented mathematics. It was us who invented science. It was us who invented geometry and algebra and so forth. All the white man did was to, build upon these things. So do not let the white man tell you that, his talent is science and ours is music and dance and sports. Listen. So, no, every man has the potential to awaken any talent he needs, no matter how dead that talent is within him. You see? So, there's but so much room for people in sports. If you have a talent in sports for you, there's no room for you in sports, and you want to be a mathematician, but that you don't have that talent, you can awaken it. You see what I'm talking about here? It's not that every man has his talent. You can awaken whatever talent you need. And the Bible or the white man's school will not teach you how to do that. So I'm not knocking the Bible as such. I'm just letting you know that there is a teaching and a system that goes a little further. Come back home. Not a question. Yes, sir.
My name is Percy. I'm a Ghanaian. During your speech, I heard you saying that you went to Ghana and they gave you a land.
In Kumasi and in Nagogo.
Yeah.
Which part of Ghana are you from?
I'm from Akwapim. Akwapim.
Akwapim?
Yeah.
So your uncle the third is your king.
I am from the Akonodi Shrine.
Akonodi Shrine, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to ask you, about the land they gave you, what are you doing with it? What have you done with it?
You want to know what I've done with the land?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm raising the monies and putting together the plans and getting people with the proper skills to go back and work that land.
Do you intend to go and settle there?
We are planning to, have people go to work there, with dual citizenships.
So how about you yourself?
Also with dual citizenships.
You go and settle there, yeah?
Dual citizenship. I have too many. I have too many responsibilities to my people also in America. America. You understand what I'm talking about?
Why I ask you that is very impressed with what you are doing. And I'm very proud of you. I am very, very involved in what you are doing. The only advice I can give you is, now you've got the land in Ghana, make it as quick as possible. Make Ghana or any part of Africa your first home, and then America will be your second home. And after you make a base in Ghana, you will be able to help other brothers, because as you said, Marcus Garvey said, talk to Africa. So you will be an example for the brothers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Come on, sisters, we haven't heard from you. The sisters are sitting down there thinking deep, rich thoughts and keeping it all for themselves. They're like, this is heavy. Come on, sisters, share it with us.
I wanted to know that, the English language, you said that the word is energy. And because we are not speaking our original language, I want to know, does that hinder African people?
So we're not speaking our original language?
Yes.
Does that hinder us? Oh, yes. When you are in your own element, your speech has a sing-song to it. Right? You remember, most of you come from the Caribbean, right? Remember how you or your father and mother used to speak before you got this stiff British accent? Hey man, where you going? Before I used to speak like this when I was in Panama. Hey man, where you going? We're going to the gal's house, we do not speak this way here. We dip and we,
peaked and we wavered. You see, that rhythm and music imposed upon speech is, if you study your psychological manuals, your manuals of biopsychology, you will find that those rhythms are imposed on speech from the right side of the brain. This is because the right side of the brain governs musical expression. The white man is polarized into the left side of his brain. Black people function more on the right side of the brain. So when you study that type of psychology, you learn that the right side of the brain governs understanding. It governs the ability to harmonize, unify, to integrate. It's the window, this area here, the window to the internalizing consciousness into the spirit. And the side of the brain separates, looks at something and splits it apart from other things. So when you cannot bring things together, you can understand. You see, so the left side of the brain is disintegrated, keeps you from gaining understanding. That's why there's a big understanding problem in the Western world. People also are talking about man and nature are different. Man must conquer nature. When you can't see yourself as part of nature, it's because the left side of you're looking at the world from the left side of the brain. You see? Okay? That's why the Western culture says that, man must dominate women, because they can't see how men and women, should work in harmony with each other. They're opposite, equations, half of the same whole. Meaning that if people's culture is a product of their biological imperative, unless you rise above the biological imperative through spiritual elevation. So when we talk, the white man's talk, we're talking a language that fails to nourish the right side of our brain. You see, when you speak straight and stiff and proper, and remove rhythm and music and melody from, your language, then you are speaking mainly out of the left side of your brain. And you can study. You can go to the scientific journals, and you will see that, that there's a correlation between speech patterns and brain formation and development and so forth. So yes, man, talk your talk. Go back to singing your words like you did back in Jamaica, and don't strive to speak too proper. When I came to America in 1960, they put me in speech clinic. I refused to give it up. I said, you're going to change my accent, my way of speaking. It wasn't because I knew anything about, right side, left side of the brain. I was only 16 years old then. But the gal, they all said, really, I like the way you talk, man. So I'm going to change that. No way. Other places, please. Yes, sir.
In a stiff British accent, I have to say, do we have the latent ability of the original mother tongue? Is it within us, all of us? How would we bring that out? Like whether we spoke Swahili before we were made slaves or whatever.
Okay. I do not, whatever we have done and our ancestors have done is buried somewhere in some part of us. For the simple fact, as I said in a lecture several days ago in London, that every single cell that is in existence today has been in existence from the beginning of time. If we understand cellular division, cells reproduce by dividing themselves, right? So every single cell from the beginning of time split into two, and remain alive up to this day. So the cells making up your body, have existed from the beginning of time. And along with that cell is the spiritual counterpart and the memory of everything. But as when you study, you find that these memories, survive in an indistinct manner. As a refuge, like if you take paper and put it in water in a water tank, let it sit for many years, and it turns back to
to dust or whatever. It's no longer paper. You could no longer reproduce and find out that was paper. It's the residue that remains. You know what I'm talking about? So the mother tongue does not survive within. You cannot recover it that way because it's been reduced back to some, indistinct prime element. You with me? But as I said earlier, when the sister came up and asked the question, see that right-sidedness, that predilection, that leaning towards the right hemisphere of the brain, is something that we cannot take out ourselves. It's something that, that right side of the brain is what makes you, walk with that rhythm that is so characteristic of black people, That's why we run the way it's written. We fight with rhythm, we dance couple rhythm, Muhammad Ali, and we have that rhythm to everything we do. But rhythm is also what we bring to chemistry, the physics, because it integrates, and integration is the foundation of understanding. And that's something that we have that's very strong within us, and once you learn how to use the right side of, let me tell you something, right? There's an approach to learning called super learning or accelerated learning. Okay? Where they play music that observes the canons of music of Jean-Philippe Rameau and Johann Sebastian Bach and music like that, There's the classical, principles of music. When you study your history, you find it goes back to laws, laid down by Pythagoras. And we know that Pythagoras learned his music and his mathematics and everything in Egypt. You see? Even, and the Pythagorean theorem, black boys and girls in Sumer used to slave over the Pythagorean theorem thousands of years before Pythagoras was born. Every historian knows this. Go to your history books. So Pythagoras learned the music system out of Egypt, the laws of music, and they incorporated it into the classical music. And when people found out if you listen to music, that kind of music, and in pace with the music, you give yourself information. Like while they're playing Vivaldi or that or whatever, and written with that, you say something like rose, rosa, bananas. So you're translating something or you're equating some principle with another principle. You with me? So that when they do that, you go into a state of trance and you're able to learn 10 times faster, 20 times faster. Because now the music kicks in the right side of bringing the learning process.
Sorry, can I say that if you've got a black person who is a mathematician, very logical in their thinking, doesn't that mean they're more left-sided then? No?
In other words, the black person will be able to bring more of the right side of the brain into mathematics. Is it? And then an integration of information, a hookup will take place. That's what I'm talking about here, okay? So if you study the educational journals, psychological educational journals by Western people, you'll find that they tell you that white people themselves admit that they are too much in the left hemisphere of the brain. They admit that they only educate the left side of the brain. And when you understand that, that's why it takes 4 years to complete the course in university, when it should only take you 1 semester. Because the right side of the brain learns much faster. The right side of the brain governs learning. When I wrote my first book in 1975, in 1976, I was invited by a Jewish organization to give a lecture. Didn't know I was Jewish, because they saw this book in Kabbalah. When I walked in, the rabbi's jaw fell on the floor. And the man said, "You got me shocked, but it's not because you are black. It's because you are so young." He just couldn't understand how a man that young could have amassed so much knowledge and understood so much and be only 32 years of age. He didn't understand that because, he was studying
the science to the left side of his brain, and I was studying to the right side of my brain. So what it took him 40 years to learn, it only took me 10. You understand what I'm talking about?
This was the reason why I asked the question in the first place. I was wondering whether there was something physical in the difference between white and black people, which would...
well, no, he said meditation will awaken them both sides of the brain. You understand? And equilibrate them. You understand? Because it says, this one here, Seker, Ma'at, Het-Heru, corresponds to the right side of the brain. That's how you awaken the right side of the brain. Tahute, Herukuhute, that corresponds to the left side of the brain, right? Oser, Heru, Oset, Geb integrates both hemispheres of the brain. Corresponds to what they call the corpus callosum in the brain, you see? So meditating on this here, whoever does it will awaken what is dormant. You with me? Without it, then white people are better at left side brain activities, black people are better at right side brain activities. When I started, he said, I don't have a teacher in this life. You understand what I'm talking about? No man taught me, going to taught me how to meditate, and taught me cosmologics, or taught me the angels' wisdom. Once I picked up a book, I started to remember. I just started to remember. And many of you in this room, will go home and have strange dreams tonight. Because something, believe me, was stirred up. Thank you very much. Okay, one last question here.
At the time that the faith was most powerful, how was Kemet, the civilization, interacting with the other African civilizations?
Let's start again. Who was most powerful?
The faith itself.
The faith?
The Osset kind of belief. How was the Commission civilization interacting with civilizations such as Songhay and Nok, maybe later, but people at that time, across the rest of Africa?
Okay, a good question. How were the Kemetic people relating to Songhai and the Naks and so forth, right? We have our time periods out of place here. Kemet is, before 4000 BC up to about, 7 AD when it was finally dealt the last death blow by the Arabs, the Muslims who came and destroyed the last remnant of the culture. Songhai is much later in AD time, and the Naks and so forth, culture, you see? So, as a matter of fact, civilization develops in the Chadic region, in the Sudan, in North Africa, in Western Asia, what is today Iraq, Jordan, and Israel and so forth, and in in southern India. That's where civilization develops. And it's begun in what is the Saharan desert, which even before that was the Sahara forest. You see? Civilization develops in the interior of Africa much later because it did not become hospitable for civilization until much later. So you have to understand, your time sequences here. And there was only once, the power stronghold was finally broken. Okay? Meaning that many people think that if Egypt was so strong, and how come it was destroyed? Here you had one nation over a period of, 2,000 years, defending itself against hundreds of different invaders, coming one after the other. You bring me Mike Tyson, put him in the ring, and, they're not just bring opponents after opponents after opponents after. They're eventually going to get worn out. And some, after his 30th opponent, some fool will knock him out. Then he's all weird and so forth. You see. So once Egypt fell, and the white man was then able to, especially the Arabs, when they once began to come in their, great numbers, then the black people began to flood into the interior of Africa. So Songhai, Mali, and so forth were the first empires to be set up. You see, and then when the Arabs
pursued further and so forth, then these great empires were destroyed by the Muslims and so forth. And the people fled further down, and then the empires of the Yorubas and the Ashanti and the Akan and the Fantes and all these people then came into manifestation. But this is people who were just simply retreating from the Islamic, Holocaust. Okay? Who were after the gold, Yes, sir. It was a great empire of Ghana, not the one present, but the ancient, the original Ghana, that checked the advance of the Muslims in their tracks. As then the Ashanti, helped the Muslims, keep the Muslims also from going any further and check the expansion of the British and Shaka Zulu and all the great South African, Bantu kings and queen mothers and so forth. They checked the expansion of the British and so forth in the southern part. But that's been our lives. That's what happened to the African people is that, for the past 1,000 years, they have been on a constant war path. And the white man, it says that the reason that we're not developed is because we're backward mentally, and not because we cannot build butter and guns at the same time. We're constantly under defense. It wasn't the European, it was the Arab. It wasn't fending off Christianity, it was fending off the Muslim religion and the swords and the Bible and the rum and all these kind of things, and then slavery, etc. So we have to, once more again, spend most of your time recovering your history and your culture. When you're proud of yourself, do not read white man's book on history, your history. They're lies. They're devised to turn you away from your people, your culture, to make you ashamed of yourself. That's why you can't come together. Because you're spending too much time running away from yourselves. Thank you very much.